The story that God is writing is an important story. It's a story that can be ruined by humanity, or if we allow God to run that story, then instead we have an amazing ending to a story that God has chosen for us. I know that all of us have stories. Some of those stories can be cool, inspiring, fun, enjoyable, and other stories we wouldn't want our mother to know about. We certainly wouldn't want the pastor to know about. And sometimes we don't even want to remember the stories because we're embarrassed by them. You know what I'm saying? There's parts of our past stories. And the good, cool thing is our story's not over. Today we're going to talk about the fact that you need to stop some things so that your story will be a great story to come to an end. That God would be excited to proclaim to the world. And so those stories are good. Now, when I thought about stories, my mind started flooding with all my stupid stories of my past. And some of the stories I decided I didn't want to bring up. Some stories, though, a funny story, first of all, though, is not that long ago, just kind of a little thing. Back in October when we did our trunk or treat, I don't know if you came or realized we do a trunk or treat out here for the community. We bring trunks up, decorate them, and the kids come and get free candy, and we do stuff. Well, it's usually a big deal, so we work hard to all kinds of people in the church come and work and so forth. And that last one, my mom even came up, and my mom's the one that's at the door usually walking in. I don't know if you know, that's my mom. And so she came and helped, but when we were done, we were starving and hungry. It was like after 8 o'clock, and we didn't have time to eat dinner, and so we decided to go over to St. Lucie West to go to Taco Bell and eat something before we all said goodbye for the evening. So we pulled in, went to the very front door. I don't know if you've been there, and it's the front part. We opened the door, and we just started to walk in, and there was this little kid. He was this tall little guy, and he was wearing a superhero costume. So he was kind of standing there at the door and saw us when we come in, and then he was just staring at my mother. And his mother's going, come over here. And he's going, just a minute. And it's kind of funny to watch. And he walked up and stood right in front of my mother, staring into her face, and staring and looking and like, what's he doing? And finally he goes, "Is you old?" And my mom was like, "What?" Kind of took her back. So he does it again. So he's standing there staring, looking at her, trying to figure it out. And then he goes, "Is you old?" And she goes, "Yeah." "Okay." And then he walked. And we laughed. And we rehearsed it over and over again. It's going to be part of our family history stories. My grandkids are going to. My mom still talks about it and laughs about it. Still to this day, all my brothers and sisters we told. So it's our inside joke. So if you want to make my mom laugh, like next week, go up to her and look and go, "Is you old?" And she'll laugh. It's just so funny because that's the story. It's a fun story. It's just something that's definitely leaving a mark in our family. Now, I'm sure you have stories like that. Fun, exciting stories that are just simple stories. Now, I have stories that are from my high school days and stuff that are stupid. It shows how idiotic I was back in the day. See, I thought it was cool. I thought that, I played football, and I was on the homecoming court, so I was supposed to be popular, which blew my head up. So I was full of pride and thinking I was somebody, which I wasn't. But some stupid things I did. I remember when I think it was about 9th, 10th grade, I decided we were going to rip off a drive-in theater. Not rip it off, take money, but just sneak and watch a movie without paying. Well, we didn't drive, so we thought it'd be cool if we walked, snuck in the back. First of all, anybody know what a drive-in theater is? It's the old days, you drove your car out in the field, had these little poles sticking up. You took these little stupid speakers, stuck them in your window, and it's like not that great of a sound. And you set your car, bugs bite you, and eat popcorn and watch movies. It was really not that great. But anyway, we thought it was cool at the time. So we decided we were going to sneak and do that. Well, I couldn't just sneak and do that because my mother wouldn't let me out of the house. So in my brainy, sinful thinking, I thought, okay, we're going to camp out. If I camp out, then that's an excuse for me not to be home. She won't know what I'm doing. And so we went, I don't even know where we went. We just found an empty field someplace. Don't even know who owned the property. And brought our tent and our sleeping bags out there. And then we just started walking in the middle of the night. It was like midnight or whatever. These things would go on late. So we started our trek to walk there. So walking down to this kind of a valley of the road, and sure enough, as always, a cop starts coming down the road. It's like, oh great, we can't be out this late, the guy's going to get us. So my friend yells, run! So you have to run. It's like, where are you going to run to? So I got a brainy idea, so I'm going to jump into the ditch over here. There's bushes right here. So I went and jumped. It wasn't bushes, they were tops of trees. I went down the cliff. Bam! I about knocked myself out. I'm lucky I didn't kill myself. What was not bushes were huge trees. It was the stupidest thing I ever did in my life in the dark. I crawl out of there half dead, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm really smart. And we still went to the movie, even though I was beat to the pulp. But I still went to that movie. We had to go do that stupid idiot thing. Now that's dumb stories. I'm sure you got dumb stories too, right? Your past, you can give me dumb stories of your life. But the thing that we wanted to focus on today is, what do you need to do to stop in your life? What's something you have to stop? Literally stop doing it so that your life will reflect the story that God would want you to have. That's the important thing. Remember Paul last week? He talked about his story that he made a decision to go to a football game, remember, and he met the girl that knocked his socks off and changed his life. Well, in the same token, decisions you make can do that for the good or for the bad. I heard of a story of a young lady who met this guy, and boy, he was like her dreams. And one time, she made a mistake when she had sex with him. She was a virgin. One time, it slipped. But you know what happened? She died of AIDS. One decision. It seemed like it wasn't that big a deal. It seemed like the right thing to do. But the decision brought down a conclusion in their life that ended their life. See, it seems innocent, doesn't seem like it's that, but it can bring you there. And that's what I want you to understand. Every decision you make will do that. In fact, this is an important word. The decisions you make today determine the stories you tell tomorrow. Can you say that with me? The decisions you make today determine the stories you tell tomorrow. See, decisions keep adding and adding and adding, depending on where you head to go. They do add things to your life that sometimes are great, and sometimes they're not so great. And so this is an important statement that comes from Andy Stanley, a big-time preacher out of Georgia. He says, direction, not intention, determines destination. Can you repeat that with me? Direction, not intention, determines destination. A lot of people have great intentions. They intend through what they've done to accomplish something that they think is good. And I want to illustrate this whole concept with a man named Samson. In the book of Judges, chapter 13, it introduces into the history of Israel this man named Samson. Now, if you know anything about him, what you see if you read a child's Bible or whatever, it shows this guy that's got these muscles and he's this big guy that can do things. That's not what happened. Not at all. He was a regular guy. And yet, supernaturally, miraculously, God did some amazing things in his life. But you got to understand what's going on with this period. Israel had sinned against God. And God allowed them to go under control of an enemy called the Philistines. Now, it's very interesting. The land they controlled was all around Israel. One of their big places was Gaza. A lot of the military came from Gaza. You know, it's almost like today, if you think about it. Israel still gets attacked by missiles and so forth from Gaza. Gaza has been a pain in Israel's neck for thousands of years. It doesn't seem to change. Their enemies keep attacking and whatever. And the Philistines, they had an advantage over Israel. Their technology was better. They had some more metals that they could use so that their weapons would break through Israel's shields and stuff. They had also DNA differences. They had these guys, remember the story of David and Goliath? They are the Philistines. They had, not everybody was a giant, but they had a bunch of giants. These guys were like watching movies. They were like robot guys. They walked up there 10 foot tall with all this armor on them, and there's spears as big as, huge weapons and swords and knocked them off before they could even reach them. The Israelite guys are over there with a sword and whatever trying to fight them. The guys hold them back and kill them with, they can't get close to them. They would mow Israel over. Their forces were so powerful, Israel was afraid of them, they were oppressed by them, they controlled them, they were basically slaves. It was a horrible time period for Israel. Well, God decided he wanted to bring forgiveness and deliverance to Israel. So in Judges 13, he begins to speak to this woman to tell her that he's going to give her a son. He's going to be a special son that's called to do deliverance, start the deliverance of Israel out of their hand. So God's will for Samson was clear before he was even born. God designed and prepared and was preparing him to be a defender of the nation. Even to the point where he was called a Nazarite from birth. Now you have to kind of understand what that means in their culture and their day. Remember that the religion of Israel was a sin religion. The whole point of it was sacrifices. They had to kill animals, burn them, kill them, burn them. You sin, let's burn some more. Let's kill some more. Burn, kill, born, kill, sin, blah, blah. Circle of sin, repentance that they couldn't repent of. They didn't have what we have in Christianity. They didn't have a Holy Spirit that would live in them, that would change their hearts and lives so that they could live in freedom from sin. So their lives were circled with sin, sin, sin. Every part of the religion reminded them of them being sinners. Their lives were miserable. They didn't have the power to change. And so they had to constantly be before God and say, God, you're holy, we're dirt. They weren't allowed even into the temple. The special guys had to go in there because they were sinners. Their life was sin. They had to spend their time confessing, burning things, because that was their whole religion. It was really a burden upon them. They loved God, but they never obeyed God, and they constantly got in trouble. It was an issue of life that was hard for them. God gave the regular people, the ones who were the really unholy guys who weren't even allowed into the temple, a special thing they could do to try to express their love for Him. And instead of like Christians, where we have the power of God and live that way all the time, they were allowed to give a 1-year commitment to do everything they could to show and express their love for God. And it was called the Nazarite vow. In that period of time, they couldn't drink any booze. They couldn't cut their hair if they were men. They were to show their dedication, their separation, their love for God, and do everything in their power with all their might to obey the law, to do what God wants, and to show their respect for God in this way. Well, Samson was called for a lifer, which is very odd. It wasn't normal. In other words, he was born to be a Nazarite. He never was to drink booze. He never was to cut his hair from the time he was born. So can you imagine he had hair? He was the hairy guy. Long hair. In his life, visually was to show the love and holiness of God. He was called by God to do the great work, to lead the people, to deliver them from the hands of the Philistines. He had a special call to be a leader. Now, all of that's very important to understand that that was his call. But here's this tragic story. I would never want to be Samson. He's not a hero like you want. Because instead, we find in Judges 14 that the first thing he does when he gets old enough is all he does is want to chase women. And not just any women. Not one woman was good enough in all Israel. Instead, for whatever reason of his desires, the only good women were the women of that very enemy, the Philistines. The only people that attracted his attention, the only women that he wanted to tell if they just partied better or what it was about it. But he wanted to be with these other women. So he drags his mom and dad and says, I found my dream. I found the woman I want to give my life to. She's a Philistine and she's awesome. I want you to go over there and take care of the business. In those days, they had to pay money, gifts for her as a dowry and all this stuff and work this all out. And their mom and dad were saying, dude, what are you doing? You can't find a beautiful, godly woman in Israel? You want to take the pagans, the ones that are moral and evil and all that stuff and defy the living God? Yes, I do. There, she's the one. I feel it in my heart. I got to follow my heart, Dad. This is the one that's drawn me to her, and so forth. This is the one I want. And so they submitted to his pressure, and they went and worked it out. They had a wedding. The thing blew apart right away. First thing they do is they got in a big scuffle. Next thing you know, he ended up killing 30 guys out of the whole thing. And something very odd happened, though. He got this supernatural strength beyond normal, and he was able to do things that nobody else could do. And so, like he killed a lion with his bare hands. Go to the zoo and try it, anybody. Go ahead. I mean, he took and tore it. It said he tore it up like it was nothing. Just tore him in half. Like, whoops. He got in trouble with another group of people. He tore their gate off their city. Go do that if you think you can. And remember, he's not some big muscle man. He just went over there because he had this supernatural, unexplained power, and ripped the gates off and dragged it up the top of the hill, threw it up there and said, nah, 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 and walked off. And told those guys, to you guys. He did all kinds of, but finally he got in a big scuffle with a whole bunch of them, and he ended up having a battle by himself and fought over thousands of these guys. He ended up massacring 1,000 of them with a piece of bone from a donkey. When he got done, they were piled all around him in heaps. Literally, it was a bloody mess. He just beat the daylights out of every one of them. They had weapons, he had a donkey's jaw. It was amazing what he could do. But the problem, every decision he made was based on chasing a different woman. Whether it was a woman that was normal, whether it was a prostitute, whether it was, they're all Philistines. He'd always get in these battles and fights with these people and end up killing them all. Well, and every time all these women he chased, they didn't love him. As soon as they started to get close to him, the other guys are saying, hey, give us the secrets why he's so strong and nobody else can do this. We want to take him out. And they sold him out every time. Finally, they took him because he was stupid enough to tell Delilah that if he disobeyed God and cut his hair, in his disobedience, he'd lose his strength. So they chopped his hair off, and he couldn't do it. So what they did, they dragged him out, literally physically poked his eyes out so he was blind, dragged him off and turned him into a work beast. They tied him up to a machine that's basically goes in a circle, and they usually tie up animals. They run it, they drive around it, and they grind the grain to make flour for bread. Instead, they chose him to be the animal. So they tied him to it, made him day after day go around and grind to make the wheat into bread. Finally, his hair started growing back over because he was there a long time with them. And finally, they had a big party, and these guys would not get over their victory. They decided to have another celebration of how they just defeated this guy named Samson. So they had a big party, pulled him into this big, huge arena thing. Thousands of people were there. and they dragged him in there, and then they tied him up between two big stone pillars that held the building up and laughed at him, and probably threw tomatoes at him or whatever. They mocked him and everything else. And he defeated, humiliated, disobedient, all the things that he ruined his story. Instead of being a mighty man of valor like, say, David or whatever, he was a disaster. Sitting there in all that disaster, he pled with God and said, please, one more time, give me mercy and at least let me end this better than this. And God heard him. And again, he had supernatural strength. He pushed those massive stone pillars with his two hands, and literally, like a terrorist, was a suicide bomber. He pulled that house down, not a house, it was a big building. And it said in that one act, he killed more of the wicked enemy than he did in his whole life of all the battles he fought with them, and destroyed the head leaders of the Philistines and brought it down. But he died doing it. Now, that's a story that's sad, isn't it? He was called, God's will for his life was a whole different thing. A victorious leader, and instead he became a tragic end to a life that God never intended for him. Because of one thing, he did not stop chasing women. That's the bottom line. Over and over, what he did, the sin that continually tripped him up was women, ungodly women. That's it. That one part of the story ruined everything about his entire life. That's horrible. I guarantee you, God does not want that for your life. And if you've been there, you've been defeated, you've made mistakes through your life, it can stop today. You don't have to press on to do what he did at all. Again, God shows great grace and mercy to us. So how do we live a story worth telling? How? How do you do that? Well, first of all, you have to let God write your story. That's one thing I found out when I came to Jesus Christ. I couldn't make my story good. I tell you, I think back when I think about stories, and by the time I was a senior in high school, I was an empty, arrogant, immoral person, selfish to no end. I only thought about myself. I thought I was cool. I made sure I had the hottest car at school. Over my junior year, before I went to be a senior, I customized my car, turned it into look like a funny car if you're in drag racing. It wasn't. It was only a 6-cylinder car, you guys know, but it looked awesome, And I go to school, and all the guys were trying to buy my car from me. I thought I just had it made. They all wanted to buy it there. I finally did sell it. They wouldn't leave me alone. I finally sold it after all that. But I got attention. I got all these things. It was worthless. It was worthless. I remember my dad dragged me into working for him. He ran a gas station on the big major road of our town, and so I started after school driving my cool car to work, and then working, and then whatever. But while the dead times, I would write these dorky poems like, dark night of the soul, my heart is empty. I can't remember the stupid things. I was in a dark spot of my life, nothing sad. I had no place to go. I had no purpose. Sin had just ruined me. Oh, it was worthless. I hated my life basically at that point. I had nowhere to go, no place to be, and no future at all. It was a bad place. But something happened when I came to Jesus, and this is Hebrews 12:2. Because I came to Jesus Christ, something changed everything about the way I looked at things. And it says, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. What altered everything about who I was and where I went was Jesus Christ. He pursued me. I was in a dead spot of life, and He broke into my life. He stunned me with His power and His reality. He changed me in spite of who I was and how selfish and proud and arrogant and evil and all the things I was. Jesus Christ broke in, and He took charge of being the author of my life, author of my story. He spoke to me. And he altered my lifestyle where I couldn't even get out of my dark hole I had crawled into as a senior in high school. Some of the things that happened when he became my author, when he began to perfect my faith. And the word perfect here, you got to know Greek is not the same as English. We think perfect means you never did anything wrong. That's not what the word means. It means finished. Builders in that day, they would be working on a house until it was perfect, which means they finished it and they'd sell it. It was done, completed. That's what that word means. And when we think of it, if you think of this here in your life, fix your eyes on Jesus. He will become the author and the completer, the finisher, the perfecter of your faith. That is a powerful reality. And let me tell you what happened when Jesus got a hold of me like that. Things started happening quickly. Jesus quickly dealt with my immoral heart. He dealt with me and changed me. I couldn't keep up with it. Another thing he did right away after he was dealing with that was he just told me and stopped me and pushed me to stop listening to my music. I don't know if you know what this is, but this is called an album. In the old days, before MP3s and CDs, there were things called records. This is a relic of that period, right? Hey, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. And here's what they look like, see? Plastic. A hole in the middle. That's what they were. I had a ton of these. In fact, my listening days were Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, anything that had to do with sex, drugs, the occult, the devil. That was all my music. All my music. I mean, I never knew Purple Haze was talking about having a drug-induced thing where every time you hurt me, your eyes saw purple. I had no idea. I was too dumb. When they Black Sabbath talked about God, I thought they were about the living God. I was kind of dumb. I liked the music. But one of the things that God said is, Randy, stop this music. This is not going to help you at all for following me. Stop this music. I didn't have preachers telling me or somebody pressuring me. This was God talking to me. And I stopped. I filled up grocery bag. I thought about that too. Anybody know what a grocery bag is? It's not little plastic bags you get at Walmart. They were paper. They were pretty good size. And I had bags of these records. I took them and threw them in the garbage, all of them. And I had to make a change. I had to stop some things. Another thing I had was such anger in my life. In fact, I remember this is another thing that scared me and knew I was in trouble in my life. It was back when I was a junior in high school. My cousin was a senior. We both played football. He was a tackle, which means he was big. I was skinny little runt when I played either linebacker or an end. And they lied about my weight when they advertised our team, because I was such a skinny little rail. And they would add pounds to me and make me sound more of a proficient football player when they advertised, you know what I'm saying? And what happened was I had anger issues, though. I remember one time at my house, we were out in the garage, my cousin and I can't remember what started this, but he said or did something that so ticked me off that I got in such a rage that when I came to, and I don't know if you know what I'm saying, is I went blank in my mind. When I came to, I had my shoe in my hand, and that tackle, my cousin was crying. And he don't cry. I, to this day, don't know what I did. I went into a rage and attacked him. That's all I know. That scared me to death. That's the place and kind of person I was before Jesus. Out of control, not a good place to be. And when Jesus became my author and finisher of my faith, I could see my story changing. Within a year of being a believer, which means I was just going from 19 to like 20 years old, one day it dawned on me that I didn't get angry anymore. Now, that means it was a gift. Super supernaturally, God altered me from within and changed who I was to the place where I could only get on my knees and say, thank you for delivering me from something that scared me and was evil to be such an angry person. You see what I'm saying? This is why it's so good for us when we talk about your story and my story. It's not over. And God, in His mercy and grace, can change your story and alter it for His glory. Does that make sense to you? It's a good thing. You don't have to give up and say, my story will never be good. Yes, it will. When you come to Jesus Christ, He gives you better power than Samson had, because Samson only had outward power. He didn't have inward power. He was still ruining his life with his choices. God gives His followers grace, mighty grace that alters your path. And this is so exciting. You have a story that can be told by God's will, by God's promise. And so, what I want you to make some choices today is I want you to make a decision, a new decision. I'm asking you to decide to stop something that's in your life that's not helping you make a story that glorifies God. Does that make sense? I would like you to consider changing what you are doing in one area. Not 100. Start just with one. Like last week, He told you to start one thing. I'm asking you to stop one thing today. Stop one thing. The reason I want you to do this, the reason I want you to think it through is because when you make a decision, when you're acting out in certain areas or practicing certain things, you need to stop and think where this takes me. Where am I going with this? In other words, let me ask you this. If you are, say, overeating all the time, every day you overeat, what will happen a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years, 10 years? What happens if you overeat every day? Give me a response. What happens? What? Heart attacks can happen. You can gain 300 pounds and be hard to walk and hurt your knees. You can, a lot of things can happen if you carry your decision through to see where it takes you. Remember, good intentions don't get you there. It's your decisions you make that get you there on a regular basis. You can intend to start your diet next week, but your decision that week is to keep overeating till the next week. You can intend to do exercise because you know you need it, but your intention doesn't change unless your decision has that same action. See what I'm saying? Intentions really are not really helpful. You can intend to do a lot of things, but if you don't make the decision that makes you do them, you have not changed your direction. Simple, right? The same spiritually. Same spiritually. You can have great intentions that you want to please God. You want your relationships and your marriage and with your kids wonderful. You can do all these great intentions and dreams and wishes, but if you don't make sound decisions, your intentions will never take you to where you want to be. And that's why I'm asking you today. Be serious about this and choose to stop something. And I want to give you some illustration of what I'm talking about. This does not have to be stop beating your wife. I mean, if you're beating your wife, you better stop. But I'm saying this doesn't have to be anything sinful that we're talking about. This can be something that's okay, you would think. Let me give you an illustration with Moses to help understand this. Moses' story is in Exodus 18. Here's what the scripture says. Moses' father-in-law replied, "What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you." What that context of that story is, Moses was the head of a nation of millions of people. Well, the problem was they had no organization. There were no judges. He was the judge of everything. So he'd wake up in the morning and 7,500 people would be standing at his tent going, "I've got a complaint against my neighbor. They stole my cat. I got a complaint against my neighbor. He ripped off my food, and hundreds and hundreds of people, day after day, were complaining they wanted a judge to hold court to solve problems. He was the only one doing this. Can you imagine having millions of people and you're the one judge? Can this follow us going, kid, are you an idiot or what? How are you going to keep this up day after day, dealing with thousands of people with all these issues? Let me give you some basic, clear, not really rocket science ideas. Stop doing this, Moses. Try this. Get yourself a leader that takes 10, another leader for 50, 100 or whatever, and have these people take charge of the problems in smaller groups. Can you imagine in America? Every morning at the White House, you wake up and there's 35,000 people in line wanting to go complain to the president. My neighbor took and cut down my tree. I want to sue this guy. Can you imagine the president dealing with thousands of people every day over stupid? He couldn't even run the country. Moses couldn't either. It was not that complicated. Now think of Moses if he wouldn't, he'd say, do I need to stop doing this? Well, what would happen if I ignore him and keep doing what I'm doing? What would carrying this decision on, what would it get me? He would probably die of exhaustion, have a heart attack, or go to a Looney Tune place just because he can't think. He needed to make a decision to stop. And he needed to think the future. What would happen if I do this? And he just asked some basic questions. Moses needed to move on. Now, in the same reason you say, well, here's some reasons to stop. First of all, you don't know what you're missing if you stop. You don't know what you're missing. There could be all kinds of extra things ahead of you if you just learn to stop. There's consequences if you don't stop, and there's probably a lot of blessings if you do. Think of this in your own life. Wives, do you think nagging at your husband day after day is going to increase your relationship with him? Or do you think it's going to cause conflict? Is there something you could stop by not doing it? You see what I'm saying? Think of what the results of that are going to be. Men, do you think ignoring your wife day after day and going with the boys, golfing and hunting and whatever day after day, and don't show up for a couple of days, do you think that's going to build a relationship, or do you think that's going to cause conflict? It's both ways, I want you to understand. But the point is, think through your decisions. Do you want a good marriage? Then you can't have good intentions, you have to have good decisions, right? You've got to make decisions that work, that make sense. So, let's add just some ideas. And play these decisions, play them forward in your mind and see how they work. Smoking. And if you need to stop smoking, cigars, weed, crayons, whatever you're smoking, you think you need to quit, play it out in your mind. What will happen in the future if you keep smoking crayons, or weed, or cigarettes? Where does it lead? I can tell you where it led with lots of my relatives. My great uncle, at the end of his life, emphysema, having to carry a tape with him to keep him alive, whatever. I've seen those things. It carries. You're not exempt. You're not exempt. Think of your future. Is there something you need to stop doing? What about trying to control everybody? There's a lot of controlling people out there. Control your children, but the problem is your kids are like my kids. They're 40. Guess what? They don't want me to control them anymore. It's okay when they're 3, but now that they're 40, they don't want my control. They resent my control. In fact, I have to shut my mouth and bite my tongue and pray that God will strike them down for their evil, because they won't listen to me anymore. You know what I'm saying? Say, God, you just take them out. And then when they're down, and then they'll listen to me, and I'll come and help them. Anyway, you see what I'm saying? You can't keep controlling people. Only God can deal with hearts. You can pray with them and for them if they want, if they're open for advice, but if they're not, stop controlling people. That's a good thing to stop. How about griping all the time? Is that a good thing to stop? Where will that lead you in your job? If every day you go to work and you gripe, you think the boss will start to know that you're causing problems at work? You think you're going to get a promotion for that? Let's call this guy in and give him a promotion. He's the best griper we have in our shop today. Lord. Oh, boy. How about hanging out with the wrong crowd? Will that get you in a good place? I know a good thing, gambling. You know, mathematically, all those guys know that gambling, the house gets it. Only once in a percentage of people that get anywhere out of this is this. Why you spend your time gambling when you know, basically, in fact, the way they advertise now, it's interesting. Most people go there expecting to lose money now. It's almost another thing. Just go there and spend and have a good time. And it's okay that you walk away with nothing. Yeah, you know, they got you brainwashed. You're not going to gain anything about it. What about lying? How about running your credit card up and up and up and up, overspending? Carry that through another 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Where's it going to take you if you always spend more than you have? Do you think you're going to like the phone calls you get every day? Hey, good morning. You can change your phone number, but that won't stop the pressures. You hear what I'm saying? There's things that carry all the way through that cause issues that you won't want. What is it today that you can choose that you say, you know what, I just need to stop. I need to stop talking behind my friends' backs and stab them in the back. I need to support them. What is it? There's something that God is just saying, this is not going to help you to keep doing this. What do you need to stop? In Hebrews chapter 12, 1 and 2, it's very interesting. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, listen to these words, let us strip off every weight that slows us down. That's where it's not sin. You know, in the Olympics, they don't go out and put on 10 extra clothes because they're cool. Extra coats, furs, or whatever they think are cool. And then as they're trying to race, they don't go, hey, Joe! So, you know, oh, yeah, I gotta keep running. That they focus, they take off the extra stuff, they make sure that they can run as fast as they can. God says, listen to me. If you want your story to be what I want it to be, take off that stuff that sidetracks you. Fix your eyes and get that stuff that keeps messing with you and slows you down. And not only that, it says, and stop the sin that you constantly get tripped up over. You know, that was Samson. He kept tripping over the wrong women. Instead of having a nice wife, a godly wife, he chased and chased and chased and ruined his entire life. There's a weakness in a lot of you that you don't seem to get over. Do what you have to do to stop it. If you need to get friends, if you have issues with drinking, what do? They have small groups. They have AA meetings. There's all kinds of ways to get you to help you. And whatever it is in your life that's ruining you, get as many people around you to help you so you beat it. Stop being arrogant. Be humble. So you got an issue and ask people to join you, be your friends with you to help you get through the issues so you get past it, so your story glorifies Jesus. Does that make sense? Now, I know my story's not perfect, but God's not finished yet. That's what's so cool. God's not done. And that's what I love about our mighty God. He changes us. And remember, small decisions impact our lives in big ways. Good decisions always compound, but so do bad decisions. Also, remember, the hardest I've ever seen people cry, as a pastor or whatever, are people that cry over the regrets of what decisions they made that were bad, that ruined their lives. Regrets are not what you want. Don't finish your days in regrets. Start a new chapter today. Here's some basic other ideas right out of Scripture. Stop judging by mere appearances. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Stop trusting in man. Stop grumbling among yourselves. Stop acting so proud and haughty. Stop being angry. Stop sinning and do what is right. All these are out of Scripture. You find these things by reading the Word of God. He gives you His will. He tells you and warns you what ruins your life. He tells you what you can do to learn to stop doing it. Last thought. If you're going to fulfill your calling by God, you must refuse to be distracted. Don't be distracted by anything. 1 Timothy 4:16 says, keep a close watch on how you live. You're not. Keep a close watch on how you live. Watch. Be aware. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those around you. It's important. You, not your mothers, is to be watchful for you. Don't make your friends keep pointing to you. You take charge here. You focus. Make good decisions. Do what's right. Would you bow your heads with me as we close in prayer? I want to give you a moment to reflect and respond to God. Father, I first of all ask you to take your word. Take your word and touch the hearts. We have to remember that our decisions, not our intentions, take us in the direction that we go. And you have a desire for our story to be a good ending, but that means we do have to stop something. I pray that you would help each in this room now to be sincere and think deeply. What is it that you want them to stop today and begin that process? With nobody's eyes open, you're bowed and listening here. Let me ask you a couple questions. What regrets do you struggle with most? What regrets do you struggle with most? Looking back, you just wish you never would have done such and such or said such and such. What is it that just kind of lays at the back of your heart all these days? How have these regrets affected you today? How have they touched you? And with that in mind, answer this. What's getting in the way of what God wants you to want? What's getting in the way? Because you're not moving ahead to where God wants you to. What's in the way? What's blocking you? What's there that you need to deal with? What's the one thing you will stop doing today? And you pray that to the Lord and say, God, I am willing to stop, fill in the blank, starting right now. It's not good for me. It doesn't glorify you. It's definitely going to bring me down a path I don't want to go. I'm willing to stop right now. Tell them that right now, with the quietness of your heart. Let God work. And then I ask you this. What is your next step? Lord, I ask you now to touch the hearts and the minds of each one here. Give them the courage to stop what needs to be stopped in their lives. Through your power and your grace. And Lord, I pray that they would seek your face and ask for your grace to give them the strength and desire to do that which is right. In Jesus' name, amen.